How's it going, everybody? My name is TYT Coasters, and welcome back to a brand new coaster review. Today, I'm going to be reviewing X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. X2 is widely regarded to be one of the most insane and incredible roller coasters in the entire world, but is it really deserving of that? I'm going to go fully in depth with this coaster, as I have gotten to ride X2 hundreds of times in my life, with Magic Mountain being one of my home parks. I've ridden this ride in the heat, in the cold, in the front, in the middle, in the back, on that wing seat, on the inside seat, pretty much any type of condition you can think of. I've ridden it with the music, with the fire, without the music. Heck, I've even ridden the original X, but because those two experiences are technically different, I'm just going to be thinking about it as X2. Before we go any further, I do feel the need to mention that everything said in this review is my personal opinion. So it's totally okay if you disagree with me. That's what the comment section is for. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. With that out of the way, let's get into the review. I'm going to start this review off with basically just walking up to the attraction and ending it off with exiting the attraction. Basically everything you could come to expect. When walking up to the attraction, you walk across this really long entry bridge, kind of near the entrance to Viper, by currently what is known as Primo's Pizza. It's kind of in a weird section of the park, kind of tucked away behind Viper, and the only really good spot you can see the layout is when driving up in the parking lot. It does make it kind of cool though. It feels like X2 has its own secluded section of the park, but it's kind of in an odd location. However, I don't really find that to be a problem. It does just take a while to walk over here. If you're planning to ride Twisted Colossus and then X2, oh my goodness, that is a hike. Once you make it across the bridge, you'll find the main entry area of X2, where you can either take the regular line or the Flash Pass line. If you're planning on using Flash Pass for X2, it is a little bit complicated on where to go, as the little Flash Pass stickers on the concrete have faded away almost completely. So if you end up getting in the wrong line and a team member decides to tell you, hey, that's the wrong line, don't sweat it. I've ridden this ride hundreds of times and I sometimes still get in the wrong line. It is a little bit unclear, so do not be afraid to ask a team member out in front of the attraction for assistance on where to go if you are using Flash Pass. Most of the queue line is basically just cattle pen. However, there are some details scattered around in the form of posters saying, are you type A or are you type X, with funny photos and stuff depicting extreme stuff and, less than extreme stuff. This line can get long, especially in the off-season on weekends when X2 is running only one train. Usually in the summer, X2 is running two trains. However, I just visited the other day, and it's the middle of June, and it was still on one train. I'm not sure if this is like a mechanical thing, if it's like a maintenance issue, but yeah, it is only on one train, which is a bit of a bummer. Expect to wait in this line for a long time, unless you get to the ride when it first opens. However, this ride usually isn't open right when the park opens. It's usually pretty delayed. Now, when you make your way into the station back when I first rode X2, there were a couple effects that are noticeably missing now. The first one is the eerie audio and music inside the station. You'll have some creepy voices over the microphone telling you XX22. And I don't know, it just really built up that atmosphere. This is now completely gone. Another effect that is also gone is the station video. There's a big giant screen right above where the train dispatches from, and it's just blank. There's nothing on there. Without all these effects and the atmosphere, the station is basically just a big hot steel warehouse, and it feels like you're being cooked in a literal microwave in the summer, so it's not the most pleasant station to stand in. Now, X2 technically does require lockers. However, ever since after the pandemic, since I've been going to Magic Mountain, the team members don't care. The lockers are right before you board. They're basically tucked away right off to the side, right before you choose your row. And the team members just allow you to leave your backpacks and all of your items either on top of the lockers or on the concrete floor next to the lockers. And honestly, I think that's great. You don't have to put your bags in the station. It makes loading and unloading this attraction a whole lot faster, and I do appreciate that. The lockers, when they were in service, weren't expensive, like at SeaWorld, where you have to pay up to $3 for an hour to ride, say, Arctic Rescue. At X2, it was only $1 for the hour, but still, I do appreciate that as of right now, they are not requiring lockers, but that could change at any time, so be prepared to potentially spend $1 on a locker. After you put your bag away, it is time for you to choose your row, and every row in X2 feels pretty different. If you choose the front row, you're going to get I don't know, kind of a more hang time sort of ride, as I like to think of it. You're sort of held over the elements, whereas if you're in the back row, you are going to get absolutely thrown around in the best way possible. I personally think X2 is a back row ride, and if you can only ride it once, I think the perfect seat to do it is in the back row, outside wing seat. Now, I know a lot of you guys who have ridden this are going to say that's absolutely crazy because the ride is rough, and yes, it is rough, but in my opinion, that adds to the experience. I think that this ride is just out of control in the best way possible. But if you do want a smoother ride, I do suggest you take the back row inside seat. A lot of people say take the front row, but in my experience, I've actually found the front to be a lot rougher than the back. As long as you brace for what's coming, which I know if it's your first ride it's a little tough, you should be fine. The only real element of worry is that final Raven turn. Just know after the fire to keep your legs out, and you should be fine. Alright, you've strapped into your restraint, which honestly is not the best, but it's also not the worst either. It's time for you to head out onto the layout of X2. So originally there was audio and music going up the lift hill, and oh my gosh, it was great. I really did enjoy this effect. You can even see the speakers are still on the train, but the on-ride audio does not work anymore. You're gonna head up that lift hill. It's absolutely massive, and you get a beautiful view of the rest of Six Flags Magic Mountain and Santa Clarita Valley. And this lift hill feels like it is never going to end because it is very slow. You crest the top, and then you start to flip backwards. It kind of puts you on your head as you go down the little false out drop, and then it flips you on your stomach as you go near vertical straight down to the ground until you do a somersault onto your back at the bottom of the drop. This element right here is hands down the scariest element I've ever experienced on any roller coaster, and it is absolutely phenomenal. My problem with X2 is after this element, the ride honestly does kind of die. It's a lot of meandering around. Doesn't really do that much. Yes, there's a couple flip-flops here and there. It's kind of fun. It just isn't really wow. But because of that first element, it's just absolutely insane. You're just left speechless for the rest of the attraction. That drop is followed by a camelback where you flip around upside down, and then you have a very slow-paced turn into a part where it flips you onto your back, and you see some cool fire effects into the final Raven turn of the ride, which is the roughest part and also one of the most extreme parts, into the final breaks. As far as elements go, this layout is relatively short, but it is really, really fun. I think that this attraction is great, even though it is a little bit rough. Bring back the music on this ride, bring back the effects in the station, and I think that this ride will be absolutely fantastic. There is another effect on this ride that is sometimes working. It was working last time I rode it, and that is the fire effect. Right before diving into the final Raven turn, when it first flips you onto your back, you are greeted with a fire blast to the face. And on a hot day, it's just absolutely extreme. I love it so much. But do not be surprised if the fire is not working on your ride on X2. Your ride has come to a full stop, and you are now back in the station. You exit out the exact same direction that you entered from, which is why they have you put your bags on the side of the station by the lockers rather than on the actual station platform. And then you head out down the exit. You can see your photos, if the photos are actually working. And the photos on X2 are actually very, very good. Some of the best theme park photos I've ever seen, to the point where I actually felt like I should buy one. It's literally on my wall right next to me right now. And that concludes your experience with X2. Overall, I think X2 is an absolutely fantastic roller coaster. Does it deserve the hype? Absolutely it does. Even though some of the elements aren't like super amazing, there are some incredible standout elements on this attraction. And it always does offer a consistently extreme ride. It is one of the most intense roller coasters that I have ever ridden. It may be the most intense in the United States. That's up for debate with stuff like Project 305. but it is still an absolutely extreme ride. Is it the best in the park? In my opinion, yes. I do totally understand if a lot of other people would rather choose Twisted Colossus over this one, but I do think that it's absolutely fantastic, and X2 will be receiving a 10 out of 10 score. It's already a perfect ride, and if it got those effects back, it would be absolutely elite. Thank you guys so much for watching this coaster review. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you guys click like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.